What about your three children? How have they reacted to this situation?
Stephen stood up to it very well until Saturday, and then he became very worried. And my daughters don't know anything about it.
Not at all?
No, no.
Well, how have you managed to keep it from them?
Well, they're away at school.
I had a word with their headmistress, and she agreed with me that there was nothing to be gained by worrying either the girls, who were 8 and 9 at the time, and they would have been frantic with worry about the father. So we just kept them ignorant of the fact.
Sometimes I think, oh, he'll maybe be home tomorrow, but other times I think he won't get out of it.
But the fate of the British captives was still intertwined with the government decision over Layla Khalid.
The position over Layla Khalid is exactly the same as it's been over the recent days, that we have expressed our readiness to release her in return for the release of all the hostages. And we are working in concert with the other governments concerned.
But the PFLP were growing impatient.
We are waiting the government concerned to accept our conditions. But of course, we can't wait till ever.
They asked us to write to the Prime Minister telling him that he must release Layla Khalid, otherwise we'd all be blown up. They made sure we give Ted Heath a bit of stick. They wouldn't accept ones that weren't pretty good, pretty hefty. What was one woman against the lives of 8 British people? I know it would set a precedent, but we were a bit selfish at the time. We were the ones that were getting shelled.
Casualties in Amman have been pretty heavy, but one would imagine mostly in the areas where the Fedayeen are concentrated. But this is a civil war. It's been on a considerable scale. And we'll hope that the British are safe in Amman. But the answer to your question is no, we don't know where the hostages are now.
I went up to the Foreign Office around the second week. Sir Alec Douglas-Home was the Foreign Secretary at the time, and he really was giving us a talk to raise our morale and to say that King Hussein's crack troopers were looking for them, and he was quite confident that they would be found, and they would be found all safe and well.
One morning we noticed that we had been left in our room on our own.
We woke up, no sound, no noise, the doors were locked. There's just nothing.
Gradually we heard what seemed to be the noise of house clearing. The Jordanian army were attempting to flush out the guerrillas by going from house to house. It was getting closer and closer, so it was decided that a white vest would be waved out of a window and we would shout Ingilese. I felt that there was a good chance they would throw in a grenade and then come and look afterwards. I can remember desperately wishing I could get into the floor for protection. I can remember being very, very scared. That was the worst point of the whole episode. When the Jordan army came to our building, we waved the flag,
shouting, "We're British, Inglesi, Inglesi."
We had been found.
The press phone in the morning to say that they'd heard a rumour that my husband had been found and released. The evening before this, my daughters had come home. They still didn't know that their daddy was a hostage. So, of course, they were there when the telephone call came, which was great.
On the 26th of September, 17 days after they had been hijacked, the 8 British hostages were flown back to London.
There was a bit of a news conference, I seem to remember, and somehow I got separated from the rest, and I sat on a seat just in my own little space, sort of thing.
By the time I arrived at Heathrow Airport, the Royal Lounge, by the way, there was my husband sitting on a seat on his own, waiting to be collected like a teddy bear.
And then this good-looking female came walking up. I thought, well, who's this?
And I was walking towards him with a big smile saying, hello. And he looked at me to say, who's this?
No, it was my wife. I didn't recognise her at all.
When he'd gone to Bahrain, I'd had long ginger hair. When I went to meet him, I'd had all my hair cut off and dyed black. He thought he was being chatted up. But it was absolutely glorious to see him. And the driver took us back to Southport.
On the 25th of September, the Jordanian army and the Palestinian guerrillas entered into a ceasefire agreement. 2 days later, Yasser Arafat and King Hussein formalized this at a conference in Cairo, paving the way for the release of all the remaining hostages.
It's exactly 3 weeks from yesterday that the attempted hijacking took place on board an El Al airliner. When she is released, it's believed that she'll be taken from here just a few miles down the road to Northolt Airport, from where she'll be flown back to the Middle East.
On the 30th of November, the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police brought Layla Khaled news of her release.
I told him I will recommend this Ealing Hilton to my comrades. He said, no, don't do that. And then I asked him, how did I act here? How do you evaluate that? He said, you were a good ambassador to your people.
On the 30th of November 1970, Layla Khaled was released from Ealing Police Station. She was flown home, honouring the exchange of prisoners promised by the Heath government. It was the first and last time a British government has ever publicly entered into such negotiations. Do you think it can ever be right to negotiate with those who perpetrate acts of terror? To have your say, log on to the Time Watch forum at bbc.co.uk/timewatch.
An archaeological detective story next week, revealing for the first time the wave that destroyed Atlantis. That's Time Watch next Friday at 9 on BBC Two.